All right, how you doing? This is Coach Big Pete of Deep Dish Football. Good afternoon. This is time now for Deep Dish Football Game of the Week. Herscher versus Manteno. Go over the rosters. Quick reminder: I'm going to be making two other videos about the rosters with about two players specifically. Two players specifically. Now I'm just going to go over the rosters of Manteno versus Herscher. Now, what I can say, one thing that's great in me being a former coach in Interstate 8 is both of these teams have multi-sport athletes, and that is key, especially for high school football. That's all I'm going to say. But please, that's a key thing. And in the Interstate 8, these kids go in after football. They play winter sport. They go into track. They go into wrestling. They go into basketball. They go into baseball, especially baseball for Herscher because Herscher has had a history of great baseball. Manteno, great wrestlers and great basketball. So just go. We're gonna do. I'm gonna do both rosters, and then I'm gonna go specifically into two football players from each team. So let's get started with the Manteno roster and talk about the roster. Uh, I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about the first guy because I'm going to talk about him later in his preview on that. Shane Warren, quarterback. Brandon Steele, quarterback. I know Steele. I think Warren's back at quarterback and Steele's at wide receiver, but two hell of an athletes. Caleb Bordeaux, great athlete, and I do not acknowledge injuries. Just to warn you guys, I do not acknowledge injuries. You got Anthony Lopez, wide receiver. Zawiski, linebacker. Crawford, guard. Another young quarterback. I'm trying to look down. There's another person I want to talk about on the Manteno squad. Steele again, but it's literally Manteno always produces a great group of tough nosed kids and smaller linemen that have done a great job. From last year, they had Pete at defensive lineman, Charlie Schmidt, who graduated too last year, Gavin Zimbelman. Those players that graduated, Mantino finds a way to get a new batch of fresh new faces into those spots, and they do an excellent job. And right now, Shane Warren, Brandon Steele, those are the two go-to guys, especially at the athletic spots. Switch at quarterback, wide receiver. Anthony Lopez, take a look. Brandon Broekhagen, who I'm going to do a complete video about. Caleb Bordeaux, wide receiver, look out for. Hayden Crawford, guard. Dylan Myers, defensive tackle, small defensive tackle. Daniel Barros, another athlete. Austin Timmer, great little guard to keep a close eye out for. It's just a numerous group of athletic, talented players coming out of Manteno. A lot of two sport players, three sport players to keep a close eye out for. It's just, it literally is the stereotypical Manteno squad. Um, I mean, Coach Haynes does a great job with those players. Unbelievable job. This was supposed to be sort of an off year for Mantino, but they're still on top. They're looking great. They aren't on top, but they're in the middle of the road between an interstate at large. But again, it shows it's the same routine with that Mantino roster, producing players in and out. I mean, you talk about a couple of years ago, Weisel at defensive end, hell of a defensive end. Travell Kelvin, Charlie Schmidt, those type of players. Those are the players that have been a product of that Haynes system, and the great deal of work that Mantino coaching staff does is unbelievable. So you have to give a hats off to those guys, and what Mantino has done with those players is an unbelievable job. Now let's go into Herscher. Herscher on the other side is um, they have a lot of great three sport players: baseball, basketball, wrestling, track. They do a great job of promoting multi-sport athletes, just the same way as I said before, Mantino. And you look at the players, Tyler Jargon, basketball, a huge basketball player, and their quarterback, great athletic quarterback that Wetzel sort of surrounds with that motto of great athletic quarterbacks with that run shoot offense. Tyler Stewart, huge kid, especially when I coached against the kid. My it was his freshman year. He literally killed us. Anthony Cordena, killed us. I'm doing a video about him. He is unbelievable. Tyler Stewart, unbelievable. Was getting looks at by all D1 schools. He's going to be playing college baseball. It shows you the multitude of different sports that these kids play, especially in a small school, interstate 8. It's unbelievable. I mean, a couple of years ago, you had the Burns brothers, and I just found out that there's another little Burns. That's unbelievable. Those kids are those Burns literally gave when I coached at Westmount football nightmares. They gave us nightmares. Just literally tough nosed kids that Herscher produces. A small line that has a little bit of size that I was impressed with. Again, I do not acknowledge injuries. Freshman to look out for is Tellin Jones. I really liked what I saw from his line. Cordina, another little Cordina. I mean, there's literally like literally, if you show me a few of the Herscher last names, I could say, oh yeah, I coached against their older brother. They are that good. Trevor Burns is the kid's name. I mean, it's unbelievable. Leeser, I know that name too. I mean, there's literally I can half of these last names. I I um I remember coaching against their older brothers, so it's a complete impress movement with the roster, especially, and you're talking about huge double sport stars, especially among with Tyler Stewart, a 6'8" wide receiver who literally just kills people with his speed. And it's unbelievable to see a kid with that size and speed. That's what attracted most college coaches, and they do an impressive job. Bryce O'Hurt, Blake O'Hurt, offensive line. Um, I'm missing one person that I forgot to talk about too, but it's a huge roster of multi-sport players, just like Manteno. If you look at Manteno's side, I'm going to be interested too, is because I'm going to be going to the sophomore game as well. I want to see what they got on the sophomore side of the ball, because I guarantee you they have some great players on that sophomore side too, some freshmen and some sophomores mixed into it. Again, you're talking about two teams in the interstate 8 large that that encourage multiple sports with players, not a specializing of sports. Even the Herscher baseball players are encouraged to play football and basketball, and it is a great thing to see. And when I talk to big school high schools, and they ask me, "Well, my guy's not getting a lot of interest in." Well, he specializes in one sport. Some college coaches don't like that. Manteno and Herscher, I can feel that I can freely talk about these kids because they play multiple sports in high school, and it's a good job. And my hats off to both coaching staffs that allow it, especially Herscher and Manteno. You guys do a hell of a job, especially in that school. Again, two schools with uh, highly tentative football cultures. That's key to breeding good, to not breeding, but to making great football players. Simple as that. This is Coach Big Pete. Roster analysis for Manteno and Herscher. I'll be going a little bit more into two players, Brandon Broekhagen and Anthony Cordina, for player spotlights. So this is Coach Big Pete, Deep Dish Football. Follow Coach Big Pete and Deep Dish Football on Twitter, Facebook. Also go to deepdishfootball.com. Enjoy your day.